with each other, mechanisms by which we can coordinate with each other about programs that we have coming up and learn about other people's programs. So if, by the way, if you would ever like to receive updates about some of the programs going on in Connecticut, you can email me. It's just barbjenis@gmail.com. And I'll see if I can do something to help promote whatever sort of programming you have coming up. So okay. I just wanted to do a little quick promo for next month's Poems from Connecticut's Four Corners. We're going to have a spoken word program with poets from all the 5 different poets who are really known as spoken word poets, including our brand new Connecticut Beat Poet Laureate, Patricia Martin, will be part of the program. So that's June 5th. I hope you can join us. You'll be receiving or seeing more information about the program on different social media platforms or through the library. So thank you for coming. I'm just going to launch right in here. What I will do is I'll read a very brief biography of each of our 5 poets, just because I don't want to, they have some wonderful information that I'll share in the chat, but I don't want to cut into their time to help to actually share their work so you can hear what they've written. I may have to post information about each person in a couple of different chats because the chat is getting very intolerant of long chats. So anyway, without further ado, let me introduce our first new poet laureate for this evening. Susan Powers is a retired teacher with a doctorate in psychology. In the fall of 2023, she was chosen as Scotland's first poet laureate, inaugural, yay! Her published poetry includes the chapbook, Break the Spell. So please welcome Susan Powers. Hi, Susan.
Thank you. All right, I actually did a trial run today and timed myself, so I think I've got it because we want to make sure that we stay within our time constraints. And I'm going to start with a poem that I wrote fairly recently. I was inspired to write this poem by a friend of mine who is taking care of her mother who has advanced dementia. And it's a subject that's close to my own heart. My mother, who died 5 years ago, suffered from dementia, and my friend is remarkable, and I love what she's doing. As she was talking about her mother, I started thinking about how we comfort each other with stories and how important narrative is in our lives in all kinds of ways. If you fly somewhere, you look around the airplane and people are watching movies or reading books sometimes, and it's just so profound. I also started thinking about how, because I am an English teacher as well as psychology, I started thinking about the Canterbury Tales. So this poem begins with a couple of sentences before the poem, just to orient someone who's listening who may not be familiar with the Canterbury Tales. It's called Pilgrimage. When the Black Death plague ravaged medieval Europe, many people made a pilgrimage to Canterbury Cathedral to pay homage to the religious martyr, St. Thomas Becket. They were seeking healing, respite from the hardships of medieval life, and eternal salvation. Bedraggled pilgrims stumble toward Canterbury, some with horses, their weary nostrils blown wide. Wooden wheels stick in mud, but faith drives them on. They yearn to kiss Becket's footprints, clutch bone relics against their hearts. Lepers cling to hope, a balm, a cure, knees on gray stones in a chapel. Your mother also journeys through darkness, borne by an ambulance announcing its presence, rocking her body in blinking lights. Those pilgrims planned their trip, round loaves wrapped in cloths, dried meat. But your mother packed nothing. She is the package, trussed on a gurney. After she fell, she watched the nurses' thick soles stop by her nose. Then hands cradled her body, placed her into the open yawn of an ambulance door. Your mother, those pilgrims, 1,000 starlit years apart, suffering, searching for relief. The surgeon's steady hands, the cold shrine, pills, a needle. Your phone rings you awake, and my phone's ringing if you can hear it. It's like, just cute in. Your phone rings you awake, summons you. You glide on empty roads, early morning air sharp in your lungs. When you arrive, your mother is happy to see you. She knows your face, if not your name. In the yellow light of the ER, the endless waiting room, you read to your mother the stories she loves about crusty Vermonters wrestling with tractors, demanding privacy. A harsh sun bore down on the Pilgrims. They leaned against canes, wore out their shoes, prayed to saints. At night, they told stories of vain roosters and human error, bawdy tales with determined widows, greedy men, corrupt priests. Like your mother, the Pilgrims' eyes gleamed, hungry for life, folly, and all. Your words transport your mother. Your words envelop her in love. Your words are the glittering stones of the shrine, the grail. Love flickers, warms your mother's beating heart, heals her wounds. We are travelers all. We search for our stories, long for the ending, dread the dark night of denouement, the quieting of blood. Hold our relics close to our hearts. Hold the hands of those we love. Thank you. So my second poem is a big change of pace. First poem that I read. I'm going to shut my door so if the phone rings, it won't be so loud. The second poem was inspired by my father. It's called Alligators in Puddles. 3:15 a.m. I wake and wonder, was my father right? Do baby gators wait, submerged in puddles, golden eyes watching for luscious toes, bright with polish, served on a sandal? 3:20 a.m. Perhaps alligators ripple in canals, climb fences, break through windows, charge the fruit bowl, gulp a cat in one swallow. I shift in bed, pull up the blankets. 3:30 a.m. Moonlight streams as I remember Dad's gift, the gadget to shatter windows. Then, when my car plunges off the bridge, I will survive in swirling waters, the alligators too surprised to attack. 3:40 a.m. Before Dad died, he placed a kitchen knife in my hand, guaranteed to be sharp for a lifetime. Its blade gleamed like teeth. I shiver, pull my feet from the bed's edge, where a smiling reptile waits. It's all true. I have that knife, but it didn't stay sharp for a lifetime. All right. My next poem. Oh, and I meant to mention, let me just go back for a second. The alligator poem was published in Sandy Lee Carlson's, the Poet Laureate of Woodbury, Connecticut. She has an online magazine called the Orned Mountain Poetry Journal. And she is like a power horse. I mean, I'm so impressed by all the things she does. I'll be really happy to meet her. Many of you probably know her, like, wow, what she does. And this next poem was published in Sixfold magazine, which I'm very fond of. It's a great Connecticut publication. It's called The White Hen. And I want to say that, like many people, during the pandemic, I got chickens. It's like a thing, right? I mean, I was home and I had chickens and they were wonderful and I love them. So this is the white hen. A tilt, a white sailboat tipped askew. The hen propels her bulk. Claws tear dry leaves, wings raised. She imagines flight and trundles toward her coop. The hawk's shadow circles. Reptilian eyes target the soft curve of her neck, the place where talons sever heads. She hurries, my hen, July sun on her feathers, nothing more important than the nesting bin, where there are no predators, only lovely moon-shaped eggs waiting for her warmth. I hold my breath, will her to hurry, and she reaches the coop. I know without looking, she has planted herself atop eggs, head first, tail feathers protruding, a bouquet. The hawk circles in the sky, one less death in a world that wears us out. This hen's victory, a small joy to relish. I return to the house, my own nesting bin. Somewhere there are lovely moon-shaped eggs. Thank you. Barb, how am I doing on time?
I think you have at least time for 2 more.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know. All right. So I will read these 2. In the same issue of Sixfold, they also published this poem, which is called Canada Geese. Canada geese call across a frozen sky. Black forms traverse the moon's wide face. Clouds float mindlessly across a silver sheen. I look up from my snow-covered garden. These cries open my heart. How would it be to glide in their midst? Flow on currents, be shielded by wings, to sing in a minor key, alert my mate, warn my family. Geese track stars across Great Lakes, mountains, farmlands, cities blink away darkness. They return to nest sites warmed by spring air, fragrant blossoms, long days. The honking fades and birds wing away. I weigh the loss of wild song, become memory. Inside my house, a fire burns, a sulky cat prowls. I balance on ice, take the lead, buffer birds behind me, eddying, dipping, following the moon. I like seeing, seeing the hands. You don't hear them, but it's pretty cool. Okay, and this last poem, I wrote this, I was trying to figure it out today by thinking about how old my son was. He was at skate camp. So I'm thinking I probably wrote this poem in 2009. And then I revised it after going to the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown, which is, some of you may have gone to their workshops. Amazing. They just like kick you into stretching yourself. It's wonderful. So anyway, I rewrote it in 2013 and Sixfold published it. It's called Happy Buddha. A stone Buddha in Provincetown squats among singing lilies and gladioli. Their summer voices blare orange pastels in loudspeaker fashion. Buddha, how do you resist the urge to swing your plump hips to this sunny blast of colors? Surely you must rise from that lotus position and belly dance among the coneflowers. Your lovely round tummy smoothly undulating in the afternoon sun. The loon's tremolo admires you, and roses twining the fence beg you for a kiss. Maybe a tango would do as you pull their vines hither and yon. And before you foxtrot back to your spot, take me in your arms for a sexy waltz. Look deeply into my eyes, and I will sigh as you pirouette into place, already missing your strong arms.
Wonderful.
Everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. That last one was really fun. Good, could see a lot of that. That's very fun. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So next up, we have Steve Veilleux. Veilleux? Steve, is it Veilleux or Veilleux? I should have asked before.
The L's sound like a Y, believe it or not. So it's Veilleux.
Veilleux. Oh, I'm so glad I asked. And I apologize. Veilleux. Wonderful. Wonderful. So Steve Veilleux is the town of Thompson's inaugural poet laureate. Steve hosts the Packing House Poetry Series in Wellington, which is a monthly. And his latest poetry collection is Event Horizon. Not only that, Steve, tell us a little bit about the play you have coming up this month.
I started writing this without knowing I was actually writing it. I was walking my dog, Lil, on one cold October afternoon and started writing something about a cold wind is going to blow, it's going to be a tough winter and so forth. And ended up writing this 8-scene play. Just Joseph Gare is the narrator, and he's telling his story. And it's 1942. I don't know why, but that's what it is. And then we're in a farming community in in the heartland, talking to farmers, and as with much of my stuff, it becomes surreal fairly quick, and we just go from there. So I made it into a multimedia presentation. So I'll be speaking some of it. I'll have already recorded some scenes from it, where I can actually, sit on a farm, that kind of thing, and show that I'm really there.
Great. Oh, now tell us, if you would please, the date, and it's at the Packing House, right?
At the Packing House in Wellington. That's 156 River Road, which is Route 32, and it's on May 16th. Doors open at 6 o'clock. There will be open mic, so because that's our typical presentation. We have before and after open mic, and then the feature is in the center. So I'll be doing the screenplay of Breckenridge County in the middle of all that, and should be fun.
Very cool. All right, well, take it away if you would.
Okay, so I'm planning on reading 3 pieces. The first piece, I think I always read just to have people get used to me. The second piece is actually probably just about my all-time favorite. And the third is a tribute to the people who made me poet laureate. So it's a tribute to Thompson and to my dog Lil, who walks with me as I narrate that. Okay, the first piece is called Blackbirds. I lay in a cornfield with 2 blackbirds. Then there were none. The sky remained blue, though a single cloud moved from left to right. I lay in a field with 4 blackbirds. 2 of them flew north. Some truth came to mine, then the other 2 flew away. I cannot remember the truth. I lay in a field with 7 blackbirds. Others came. Some tugged at the purple nettles, some at dandelions and twigs. Some tilted their heads at me in the way of magical birds, yellow eyes glinting in the high sun. I wondered about the end of days. Not so much the fairy tale ones, but the 5th age of the cosmos, after the black holes have evaporated and dwarf stars have collapsed into lifeless husks. When protons and other particles have broken, light has been turned off forever. The sky blackened with the murmur of wings, and the flighted song gave an edge to the field as I lay in the midst of the corn, surrounded by blackbirds, brown and purple, and plants colored maize and amber, blue and gold. And I remembered that you are part of my song. For I lay in a field with blackbirds, and they took hold of my heart and anchored it. In a pyre lifted in their midst, blackbirds swirling plume to heaven, and I lay in a field of broken corn, hyacinth and daffodils swaying, a flowering blanket twisting toward the inevitable edge. I knew then that your shape lingered there. 100 intersecting blackbirds, ghosts blending into starkness as they collided into one another, beaks into breasts, claws into wings and eyes, in and out of existence, and you, still, some irresistible truth. This next one's a narrative poem. The speaker is a truck driver making his way from Alabama to Texas on a midnight run. It's called Graveyard Run. I felt more like making the drive if the moon was out, but no matter, when it was time, I'd hoist myself up the seat of my 18-wheel Leviathan, settle in for the midnight run between the Port Authority in Mobile and the United Marine Shipbuilder of Beaumont, Texas. A quick step in Laplace, Louisiana to break the monotony. Engine got to whining once a week or so with the weight of steel and steel parts. Air horn echoed across the blackness from time to time, another witching hour blast like a Paleolithic elk mating call. My rig, my cargo, and I scratched across the spongy terrain of the Louisiana Bayou, north and west of Pontchartrain, stopping now and again to watch the moon. When light enough, catch the voiceless shadows as they dribble through the Spanish moss, hanging wet on the groaning cypress trees. And I sucked it in, yes, sucked in the smell of the wet wood, the clump of southern fog sticking to me like marmalade to a tree. Or when the lady was new, I'd stand still in the brittle darkness, mesmerized by the tree frog's haunting chirp, the cricket's wing wub, and the hoot song of the barred owl. Long about 3 a.m., I'd find myself at Fanny's truck stop. Its lights flickering like an Art Deco firefly was how I met her. Skin soft and brown as milk chocolate, a gal like no other. Truckers called her Fentanyl Fanny, and she spoke so sweet in that slow brown sugar cadence, the langue of the bayou. The great-granddaughter of Black Julia, a voodoo princess of Frenier, Louisiana, and non-stop, except for when she was scraping another fix of devil's dust across the inside of her lip. Then she'd walk a long, narrow finger across my back, always starting at the base of my spine, sending a warm thrill across the landscape, and then she'd press against me, show it stepping towards the battered back door and into the dream that was my shack, loosened her blouse in the bayou's swelter, invited me to listen to her stories, to take in all the world her grandmama had known. And oh, I breathed in that world, a long, long breath with a hitch and shudder in between, to inhale her swirl of shadows, her swirl of the gray mosses, her ripple of moon and stars and clouds, her swirl of pooling waters, collapse of cypress knees, looking every bit like human bones rising from the mist from the alligator graveyard, where they lay awake, where they lurked awake, gliding through the darkness. Oh, Fanny's voice flowed like that water, gurgling, sweeping, dangerous. Breathed me right into her own private space, made me see all that she did within the opioid reality of her dance. Round, and I swirled with her as she turned and stripped, casual, and oh yes, nothing, oh, nothing has ever drawn me in so. You might think we made love then, but it was more like the great bayou tendrils snaked across and around our thighs, binding our anticipating limbs to one another. Was more like the pea green water breathed and ebbed, until we, not resistant, were sucked in, a surreal wet dream in the warm waters feeding the dead that floated into the Pontchartrain. As clear as the ancient poets, she announced that this was all there was. Take it in, and she sang about Grandmama, Black Julia of the Bayou, Julia Brown of Frenier in the heart of a Mount Jacques swamp. And she sank into the soul of that ageless water, her breast glistening in the moonlight, cloaked by the swamp's tiny, tiny leaves, movement of insects, the gray ghost cypress. She looked like a Monet painting. And you could hear Black Julia's eerie song, the sultry guitar strings plucking from the depths, the chant of the wilderness muck. But, oh, Fanny, the dust would have its say. That Apache Watt would grip her like a Cajun alligator, leave her alive until it was ready for its final meal. Last I saw her, she was crying for the moon to take her on home, her eyes lost, misty inside sinking orbits, her teeth yellowed and rattling within retreating jaw, the most brackish odor seeping out her lips that had been once so sweet. Her consciousness barely above water, jammed like broken logs that float through the muck, remnants of punished beauty, sunken eyes, sunken chest, ready to seize up at any time. Some say Katrina took her, like the wind that drowned Frenier on the day Julia died, straight to the hell that broke the shores of the bayou while she howled with the storm surge, that she was swept straight to her grandmama where she rises and falls with the Pontchartrain moon. Some say she dances still among the mosses, and in truth, you can hear her cry in the song of the cricket frog, the hooting of the barred owl, the lament of the loon. I wrote that after listening to Canned Heat singing Amphetamine. Okay. So this last piece is something that I wrote while kind of studying about the town of Thompson and its past, and walking, for a number of days up on Thompson Hill, which is where a lot of the mansions of the old wealth here exists, and always with my little Shih Tzu Maltese mix, whose name is Lil. So here we go. And I'll go back to my northern accent. Twilight on Thompson Hill. It's twilight on Thompson Hill, and I with Lil on a long leash and still with my thoughts and hers on the common, an early autumn breeze swirling leaves and memories. It's twilight on Thompson Hill. A lone Ford pickup approaches the stop sign. A lone driver heading home, anticipating a quiet evening, hope of a filling meal, a place to lay his shoes. And Lil tilts her head on Thompson Hill, a seeming interest in the orange turning dusk through the windows of the Mason house, painted now with the warmth of the setting sun, and soon the dimming violet of twilight. The electric lights of the grand old homes on Thompson Hill mark the evening. The half-lights of Ferry fill the dusk. And Lil sniffs at the cooling air upon the green and stops when she spies the first crossing of the spirits on Thompson Hill. First upon the green, outfitted in his finest Victorian clothes, larger than life as he was when at his tavern's doors he stood, Vernon Stiles, and by his side and equally wide, his stately wife, Lucy Goddard. In the half-light, Lil pauses to sniff at a growing thickness in the air. A car horn flares, then fades in the distance, replaced by the clop-clop of horse hooves, the crunching of loose stone and wet earth beneath carriage wheels, the glimmer of candlelight from the shops along the way. An open window, a long-skirted woman over the hearth, warm loaf in hand. And we become aware of the faces from a past age, the vital barons, Savin and Wilkinson, Grosvenor and Mason, Nichols and Watson. Even now, they tower over the others, though their heads are bowed. as if some understanding has pierced this realm, an entanglement of spirit passing through one another as they could never in life. And the voices cry as one on Thompson Hill, those who tilled the soil, those who milled the grain, who tamed the rivers, tamed the rain, who grew the land, who brewed the ale, who watch over these homes from beyond the pale. For every mill and every mansion, for every man with vision, here stand those who opened the canals to power the mills, to close and feed the hills of Thompson, who dug up the bones of the earth and built the walls, who shaped the bricks and mortared the stone, and left their souls upon Thompson Hill. The press of souls with picks and hoes, with workmen's awls and axes, these are the men and girls, the women and boys whose brows were wet with sweat and mortar, whose souls tell the tales of Thompson Hill. Our driver now, he looks both ways, releases the clutch and crosses the road by Thompson Hill, and I with Lil, a casual wave, and we both towards home for another day.
Wonderful. Thank you, Steve. Really fun. That last one was haunting, so to speak.
Pretty much, right?
Oh boy. And thank you for your performance, the performance value of your the poem about the truck driver too.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, as I said, it's a favorite.
Yeah.
And I've been there. My son went to medical school in New Orleans, so I had the chance to get to know the area.
Very cool. Thank you. Okay, so third, we have poet, artist, advocate, and educator Nzima Hutchings and she's the new poet laureate of Enfield. Nzima is the founder of Every Kind of Lady, an organization that helps women use writing to help heal from trauma. So please be sure to check out her biography in the chat. She's got an amazing life story. So welcome, Nzima.
Thank you very much. This first poem that I am going to read is called Revolutionary Turns. So a lot of my poems are speaks to women and advocacy, and I love movies. So this first poem was inspired by the book, Alice Walker book, The Color Purple, because the new movie came out, the musical. I was inspired to read the book again, and it was a lot more nuggets in there. And I just thought it was important to just respond to some of the piece that was moving me. And so, to no further ado, this is a revolutionary turn. She's the essence of womanist, resilience, and forgiveness. She's unbound, doesn't carry bridges on her back. She's many women, rooted African, brown braided 4C hair plaited, deep arch rounded, with playing love, playing flat eyes. She's the rhythm of her ancestors' drums. Mister called her black, skinny, ugly. She is a mist glow, a glow of a million moons ago. Coffee bean brown, espresso, indigo, navy blue, purple, beautiful. Country southern, watermelon colored seeded, red, black, and green jubilee sweet, black bean and rice warm hearty. She is unforgotten, bitten fruit, bitten too much. I said bitten just too much. She is rose petal water soaking tired bones. She is scratched out healing sister songs and ailing heads. She wears Hades ladies' unrest brows, a sorrel red lip an African proud smile, filling wild bellies with eggs and steaks, never to paint on walls, a triumphant song while spitting in water glasses, her revolutionary turn. She is Nettie stories written to silly long, threading epistolary letters and root ties to Africa. She is Tashi's survived tribal scars and hand-me-down generational curses, anew and unbarred, wearing breeches she handmade. She's the teeth-cracking sunflower seeds and the split-open earth growing and tall. She is prayer, language riddling, street preachers' tongues, a real sister sistering. She is hope, hope to old soul bearing abused girls.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And the next piece I am going to read is Lamenters. Old memories. Old memories are the enemies holding to intimate longings, cinematic and ghosts, pocketing unfoldings, replaying the forgotten, all that never got a chance to toast, remembering first times and final hours, like cold kisses, smells of cedar and burnt flowers, gravel underfoot, dirt thumps on caskets, pillow tears, muted green dead presidents, and passed around plates and baskets in old times of a storyteller's truths, trying to make it all make believe. Poem. And the next piece that I am going to read, it is called Missing Smile, and is about someone that have an addiction. She can't seem to find her smile at the bottom of her glass anymore. After she lifts her head and neck out of that bin, she shuts her eyes and drops down her chin again. Imagine if she can't see out, no one could see in. Her grace once framed the most envious stares in other women. From the sight of her grin, men's hearts used to lit in sin and buy her fine wine and gin. She used to be first in her class, first class, a lady with jazz, slices of lime, salted rimmed glasses, green olives and cherries adorn the kiss of her lips. And nothing could tame the dance curves of her hips. Now her profile mirrors x-rays filled with negative spaces. Everyone now in her grace pitied the storyline told in her face and turned their faces. See, she just can't seem to find her smile at the bottom of her glass anymore. After she lifts her head and neck out of that bin, she shuts her eyes and drops down her chin again. Imagine if she can't see out, no one could see in. She was the kind of lady with the song in her stride, and if she was blue, if blues at play, nobody ever knew. She hid the bag alongside Nips and Jack, cognac, bourbon, with her bright colored bags, reds, purple, and blues. Poem. And the next piece is called Etheric Touches. When a lady touches herself deep on the inside, climatic changes fills her womb, fruiting etheric relations, forming a poetic amalgamation between the natural and the metaphysical, like an unfolding buttery prayer, butterflying to God before spoken. See, when a lady touches herself deep on the inside, she masters her first tribe, her first ancestors, two-step, a whispered heart's drum, lift as we climb, lift as we climb, lift as we climb, lift as we climb. When touching herself deep, she gains back her first mind's eye, capacity to untangle the ciphered, eye clarity to realize Black ain't really hard to do. Enslaving for sustainability, submitting to the bluest eyes, killing moves, killing us, fueling our demise. We didn't do. We lifted as we climbed. We hieroglyphed and rocked unks. We actually gave a. See, when a lady touches herself deep on the inside, she reclaims her feminine principle. She disclaims all the isms and ists. She screams in her walk, be beyond queenable. Be beyond queenable, typical ego curves and hairdos, and how to make the booty do what it do. See, when a lady touches herself deep, deep on the inside, she comes outside, demanding others to take her rightful place. So she licks her fingers and thumbs, finding her saliva beyond her teeth and gums, be both persuader and provisions from another dominion, a food source from her welcoming table for every kind of lady and man, her lifting and her climbing. See, when a lady touches herself deep, deep on the inside, she raises her roots above ground. It be her limbs, legs, and feet, as it be her limbs, legs, and feet. It is the train of her gown, the weight of her wisdom and route. She flips sepia sand and rock, not wind, but her newborn breaths, the crimson beneath her skin, the milk heavy swelling her breasts, fingertips holding life's edges like branches holding berries. Bridges cross, so bridges cross be the trunk of her back, thick. Wild roses be her bush be stems adorned with protesting thorns between her thighs, and her now unshaved, high unibrow, furrow, full-grown, braided, is worn unapologetically, gracefully, to protect her third eye, to remind her to lift as she climbs. Though the few that can see her cannot recognize her, characterizes her as this and that, and gives and tosses epithets. When a lady touches herself deep and she speaks, the palate of her tongue becomes a foundation, springing and spewing tastes of convictions abound, roaring sounds beyond the exosphere. Beautiful, profound like midnight street jazz and rushing raindrops blending with a horny saxophone, an old trumpet or trombone, splitting clouds, holler out, you can have my crown, because see, me and my crown ain't from here. Poem. And my last piece, I think I'm doing good. Okay. So maybe my last piece. I think I have a few more minutes. This piece is Every Kind of Lady. I must do it at every platform. Constancy is an unfair brand of a lady. See, I think that I've been every kind of lady. Her and her too. The kind I didn't understand. The kind I feared, envied, yet I revered. The kind of lady I might have shamed or wouldn't claim. The kind of lady I gotta be. Yes, even that girl. Her and her too. The kind I couldn't stand or even forgive. The kind of lady that both lived and survived. The kind I grieve. The kind of lady I pray heavily to be. The kind of lady I gotta be. Yes, every kind, even she. And thank you. And how I'm doing? Is that like 10 minutes? I have 14, right?
Yeah, you don't have 10 minutes more, but maybe one more poem?
Perfect. Okay. So this one I wrote, it is called Uncrowning Suicide. I am an artist advocate, and I work with folks who have suicidal ideation. I'm a peer, and I am there supporting people. And I was tasked to write a poem, and the theme was heavy as the crown. So in this poem, I am spelling the word crown, but it is called Uncrowning Suicide. Carrying now a resuscitated and revolutionary resolve, a fixed regal resilience, a reimagined redo, a reconstructed rebirth, an optimal, omnipotent light rebound, an unbent realignment, a wearing of a hand-me-down ancestral crown, a touchdown, giving permission to release and lean in and sit with it, advice, to let go of ominous vices, and reframing like a ceremonial reframing, renaming to rebuke and reruns and replays, renting space, the outlines that kitty cornered in my mind, choke holding my windpipe, wrinkled spaces in my timeline, then whispered into the folds of my mouth, crow's feeted my eyes, crinkled up my spine, blew holes in my soul, made the circle of life unnatural, unfathomable, irreversible, flatline, cry. So I make poems cry. To slide this litany aside, like, why not suicide? Why try? Why lay the crown down, die? Why call on God? Why call on God now? He took your child, didn't give her back. What the? She cold. You know she's cold. He knew she hated being cold. No, I got other kids though. I can't just go. I gotta keep her grave site pretty and clean, though there is no makeshift kickstands for me to hold up my hopes or bones. Like a marionette doll, I flopped and flopped around life stages, begged for grace. No necessary extra hands to pull loose strings when life and feels like a noose at times. Hubby's too busy living inside his memory wounds. Superhero syndrome makes his bed at night because no matter the fight, he couldn't save. Daddy's girl's not supposed to be in graves. I make heavy carrying look easy. Dress it up with yellow bows, gives, and sideshows. Poetically move, shadow work. Hard at times seeing little girls. They're all over the world. Nowhere to run. So uncrowning suicide became my daily mission, gifting growing girls gems while their eyes are still open. Bolding crowns now, if only in words. It is way beyond queenable. Call it practical, ethereal, or spiritual. I decided hospitals are not the place to go. Gowns just keep my ass cold, made me feel like a freak show. Besides, my daughter's legacy needed more from me. I am always her mother and her queen. Heavy as the crown, even if I have to wear it with a lean. And primal belly scream under willow trees. My name means whole, and hers means purpose. We are still a team. I dedicate this to my daughter, Nia.
Beautiful. Very, very powerful, that last poem. Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Oh, boy. I really, really liked Every Kind of Lady. That poem is totally you. So,
Thank you.
so thank you. Thank you for your bravery and beautiful words. Okay, so fourth for this evening, we have Judith Liebmann, Poet Laureate of Branford. Judith directed the writing program at Yale Center for Independent Study. She is recipient of a Fulbright Fellowship and a grant from the Connecticut Commission on the Arts. And welcome, Judith. Oh, you'll need to unmute. There you go.
Okay. Thank you again for inviting us. It was a great honor to be chosen as the first poet laureate of Branford. And I have filled the past 3 months with many events, and I think have been able to arouse the poetic force in a lot of people who had no idea they had any. And if any of you are interested, on June 2nd, there's an event at the Baca Gallery in Branford in which high school teachers, high school students, and some older gentlemen from one of my workshops are all going to be reading poems they never thought they would be able to write. So that's going to be on the websites. So you can, if I think it might be fun to hear. I call it the Poets Among Us. And today I'm going to read partly from this new book that just came out a couple of months ago called Ekphrasis. And it's available on Amazon, and I'd be happy to send a signed copy if you'd like. So the collection or the selection of poems that I'm going to read today is a different group than I normally read. And I'd like to first introduce myself, my first name being Judith. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the story of Judith and Holofernes. Judith was a widowed member of the Israeli kingdom, and they were attacked by the Assyrians, whose fierce general Holofernes was leading the siege. They had already surrounded her town, which was right next to Jerusalem. And she was famed for her beauty, so she went and seduced him, and having wined him and filled him with lust, she took a sword and cut his head off, and had her servant maid carry the head on a platter past the encampment of his soldiers, who, seeing the head of Holofernes on a platter, fell into disarray, and Jerusalem and the kingdom of Israel was saved. So I never actually asked my parents why they called me Judith, but my sister told me it was because I was such a terrible person and they named me after a murderess. And so I carried that with me. Older sisters have a lot of power, until I had the good fortune to go on a scholarship during college to Florence, where I saw a wonderful painting, which is in the book. I don't know if you can see it. That's a Botticelli painting of Judith with her sword and her servant maid behind her. And the poem is also an acronym. It's called Eponymous Poem. Jewel-like, the Botticelli blues and ivories undulate and flutter around the elongated doe-like figure, striding past the enemy encampment. In her servant's hands, the platter boldly held aloft, the pale and swaddled offering upon it, Holofernes' head. Holofernes' head, the beard matted, hair in tangles, lips flaccid and askew and drained of passion's crimson, eyes unsocketed, presented as a trophy, justice done, a people saved. Judge her not by the bloody and unfeminine deed, but for the flawless discharge of a tactical maneuver, in wielding weaponry, both flesh and steel, to sever from its warrior hero's body Holofernes' head. So my second name is Kuznets, which is Smith in Russian. And the reason that I have that name is that my ancestors, who lived in the Russian-occupied Ukraine in the 19th century, were subject to periodic pogroms in which Cossacks, who would ride their horses through Jewish villages or would seek out Jews by their names in other settlements and would kidnap and rape the women and murder the male children and the men, much as what happened on October 7th. And luckily, I was born post-Holocaust and grew up during decades when I had no real feeling of anti-Semitism. I mean, other than the less harmful kind. And yet it's always present because we know our history. And I wrote this poem, which is called orison, which is a Greek word for a supplication, for my first grandchild named Ali. Orison. If indeed you are the one, then I ask you to observe, to extol, to exalt how the child, grandchild of the grandchild of those exiled from Odessa's amber-studded Black Sea beaches by the men on horseback wielding bloody swords, discovers lavender, how she waves away the honeybees and clutches in her chubby fist a sheaf of purple-scented stalks, holding them aloft like spears. If you are the one, then let her find her way as well to rosemary and lemon balm, and to the sweetness at the center of the stinging nettle. Assure her claim forever to this garden as her own. So again, on this same theme, because of the moment we find ourselves in, this is a poem that I wrote when my oldest child was bar mitzvahed, at a time when, again, there was no threat and we thought all of that was in the past. And yet there is always the knowledge that in taking on adulthood during this ceremony, a child takes on the past, the millennia in which his people have been the victim of terrible things and yet have survived. Bar mitzvah. Your portion is also a leave-taking, the lamentations of Moses as he lay dying, not at the fate of his people, but at their deficiencies. Last night you pushed the book aside and wept and said that was not fair. In the warm crook of arm I offered, you laid a boy's silken head, and as I bent to kiss you, in your eyes my own image leapt up to be embraced. You smiled, and the boy slipped away into the dark pools. Now you stand emblazoned by a shaft of churchly light, head bent over the holy scroll, singing the ancient sawtooth chant as you move the silver pointer along a countermarch of letters, each one of which was blessed as it was inscribed, without blot or blemish, its perfection a prayer. Mingling your voice, still a child's, with the voices of the many who went before, refusing exemption from grief, you enter the house of the holy tribes. And then I have one more poem from the book. My husband, who was a companion for most of my life, all of my adult life, I met him when I was 19, going on 20. I was on a Fulbright in Germany studying. He was German. I'll tell you about the name Liebmann soon and how that came about. But unfortunately, he passed away almost 4 years ago. And I wrote this poem on the anniversary, the first anniversary of his death, which is customary in Jewish custom, when the grave site monument is revealed after a year. And it's called The Unveiling. The Unveiling. The year rounds up upon itself. I gather beach stones, heart-shaped, like a treasure hunt. I find a basket large enough to carry them. From the dark edges of the garden, I harvest moss to line the basket. Bitter green, a cushion for the stones. In the cemetery, amidst the red bud's leafless bloom, your granite monument rises, an apparition draped in white. Your name beneath the covering, once written in the book of life, is now, lest we forget you, carved in stone. Prayers are said. El Malach Rachamim, grant my beloved a soft landing on the wings of your divine presence. Let him shine forever among the host of dead or dying stars emblazoning the firmament, illusion of heavenly light. Let him lie serene and undisturbed while his body molders in its wooden box. But take the rest of him, all that persists, into the shelter of your embrace. Dare to reunite with the flame from which his spark was thrown. From the basket of stones honed and shaped by sea and sand, each of us who mourn chooses one to serve as talisman. Hard and solid and smooth in the hand, lined up one after one, piled one upon one, ramparts and towers, a fortress against forgetting. Now, if you are indeed the one, turn your grace toward us, the bereft who live on with holes in our lives. Help me to retrieve the him who was before the frail and dwindled bony him I tended while we spoke of all things you. He gave you credence. So let me feel again the warmth and dryness of his hands and remember how he swam ahead of me to ward off jellyfish. Have him come to me in dreams. We could sit in the garden with a glass of wine, aroused to lively conversation by the ironies of daily life. Or he could whisper in my ear words of love and tell me he in general forgives me. And if I open up to life without him, he approves. If you are indeed the one, let him not fade from us. Share whatever parts of him you keep alive and close. Be generous with the blessings of his memory.
Thank you very much. Beautiful poems, Judith. Just gorgeous.
I have one more. I think I have time.
Okay.
I actually have a stopwatch going. Oh, I have 14 minutes, but I really would like to read this one.
Okay.
It's a poem I originally wrote in German.
Is it
and was
short?
published
Is it a
in
short?
this.
Okay.
Yes, it's short.
Okay. Thank you. Good. Excellent. Sorry.
And it was published for the commemoration of the 250th birthday of someone you don't have to know about. Anyway, it's called Holocaust Memorial Day, and which is Yom HaShoah, which is coming on May 5th. So I thought it would be good to read this. And it's dedicated to a man called Hirsch Glick, who was a survivor of the Vilna ghetto and wrote what became a song sung not only by the resistance then, but by resistance to tyranny all over the world in many languages. And the refrain is, we are still here. So whatever you do, we are still going to survive. And it was what President Zelensky said every time he went out into the street at the beginning of the Russian invasion, he would say whatever he was saying, and then he would always end with "We are still here," which is the refrain from this song. So the survival is what this is all about. Snow in April, not quite out of season, still surprises. Through the window, I watch flakes like lacework curtain the night air. The snow piles on. Pines bend and creak under the weight, and long branches of balsam hang low and sweep the snow-covered ground. Hunched together, a congregation in white shawls, the trees glow in the light of the night of the street lamp and sway in prayer to the lamentations of the wind. In the morning, the sky is a cloudless blue, and sunlight brightens the dry air. My robust and rosy children, survivors unto the fourth generation, run in boots red and purple, but no jackets, making tracks in the snow. They throw snowballs at the dog, who jumps high into the air to catch them. With hockey sticks from the shed, they bat away the pillows of snow weighing down the trees. A puff of white powder and a branch snaps up into its accustomed shape. Giddy, the children liberate the trees, one after one. The sound of their laughter echoes, rising, the joy of the living, a consecration of the dead.
Excellent. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you. Important poems. Our last poet for tonight. Nadia, you still with us?
I'm here.
Oh, good. Nadia is the new poet laureate of Manchester, and she's a Princeton graduate. She's the author of 2 poetry collections, A Soft Place to Land and We Know the Dark. So welcome, welcome, Nadia.
Thank you. So I just have 3 pieces. It's pretty much about love and how bad I am at it. The first piece is called Playing Dead. They say there's a difference between people raised on love and those raised on survival. I didn't stick around long enough to hear the answer, because I already know what it is to not need anything shaking my equilibrium or breaking my ability to bounce back and slide to the left, slide to the right, take it back and survive. Some of us dirty dance our way to tomorrow, fancy footwork of private dancers making the struggle look easy. On bleeding toes, still bandaged from yesterday's battle to be a swan on a lake already melting while the nutcracker stands on the bank yelling, "I guess you don't need a man." No pressure. I'll get to the other side and wonder why it feels like we've grown apart. How can I risk drowning, waiting for love to meet me halfway, to go out of its way to save me? I stopped showing up for battles at age 8, standing on stairs, knowing nothing I could say, scream, or reason would keep trouble from coming my way. You get to a point where you stop bargaining with pain because the 2-for-1 special on trauma is a coupon that never expires. But life is a cashier that will shortchange children living on one today, and the flies on their eyes want their cut. It's just you get tired of picking yourself up. So I lay down and lay still and play dead. Call me Lazarus, because I will stink in my tomb before I gotta walk into another wound. I gotta suture and doctor and kiss my own boo-boos and Grey's Anatomy Google myself back together. Frankenstein gets tired of stitches too. And even Chucky remembers when his face wasn't a train track called tragedy, even if he hurt more people than hurt him, and Freddy haunts more dreams than he ever got to dream himself. We stay trapped on this battlefield. This has never been a fair fight. Why I gotta be a soldier in the battle of the sexes when they want me to be a damsel in distress, but damsels don't dodge bullets, my love. And there's no tower for me to hide, and Bowser's got me captured, and I can't be sure you'll come for me, Mario. Not when Luigi swears he can't see what you see in me, and Yoshi only has one seat, and every side mission you need to complete before you show up to fight for me. And you swear you're on my side, but what does that mean? Poem. The second piece is called Strange Seeds. And it goes, strange seeds grown from a strange tree, grown up to shade me, grown with the sun. Strange seeds from a path unlit, from a past unfit, from a darkness we know. Some trees don't talk to me. They know brown flesh, can feel brown spirits and the ancestors walking beside me. Trees have long memories. Don't mean they want to be reminded of the fires from their sapling days. DNA is a funny thing. Maybe we mixed and mutated and you are my ancestor, and maybe like my grandfather, you won't talk to me. You won't acknowledge me. I can't tell if you're hoping that I become a new thing or if you just don't want me. Strange, strange seeds we are. Some trees stretch for me. They recognize an old spirit trying to live long enough to be wise. And in my third life, I can hear what I was once deaf to. The wind carrying screams and songs equally, that melody in branches waving in the wind, trying to cover a brown girl's dreams, trying to keep them from drying in the sun. Those branches would wrap around me if they could. Instead, they grow defiantly high to remind me that I too can stretch without snapping, as long as my roots are strong. Strange, strange seeds we are. Has it changed? That small fear and doubt, the fear you'll be left out for the sun? Strange seeds fallen from strange trees, the strange deeds from yesterday and the hours that wrap over me. The branches break suddenly, ash in the sky writes history. Strange, strange seeds we are. All right, last piece, and then we can all go home. This last piece is called How Much for Your Peace? If I got paid every time someone said to me, that's why you don't have a man, I'd almost have the 30 pieces of silver Judas got for Jesus. I too have been betrayed by kisses I gave earnestly and honestly when they were only after my peace. Historically, people have consistently loved to disturb my peace, and it surpasses all understanding. Why do you bother me and you know you don't want me? I have tried to be a soft place to land in a world that only understands concrete and how to intentionally step on cracks to break the backs of mothers raising inner children who have only drank the formula of generational trauma. My deeds have served an army of needs that has never answered the call to fight for me, and I'm such a soldier. It ain't hard to find a troop of 12 to ride with me, but it's lonely at the cross searching for anyone to die with me. If people had only loved me back, I would have gladly died a martyr. From window to wall, I would have went harder. For my name to be in history books, I would have died smarter. Let my heart write the commandments and my deeds write the charter. Here would lie the grateful dead instead of the forgotten. How much for your peace? What's your price? How much would it take to steal your peace of mind? I have played Judas to myself. Self-love goes out the window the moment a forked tongue wants to lick at my core, and I am so damn touch-starved, I'll eat forbidden fruit twice, even knowing I'll end up naked, lonely, and cursed. Lonely nights can be sleepless too. If you knew the things I have done for my peace, I have cried, lied, survived for my peace. I have tried, arrived, and died twice for my peace. I have taken pills and potions, serums and lotions. I have drunk the bitter and the bittersweet for my peace. Fasted when all I wanted to do was eat for my peace. Paid rent, then got a mortgage just so I could sleep for my peace. Swam through all my shadows and dug deep for my peace. Cried out to God and learned to pray for my peace. I get up and fight every day for my peace. I'm at war and all I catch are strays, but it's my peace. And at the end of the day, I'll pay the price for my peace. You can't have my peace. It has cost me far too much. Oh. Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh, you left us on high energy. Thank you. Hey, I wanted to ask you the last poem that you read there. Is that in one of your two collections? Or is that
Actually, no, that's something new I'm trying to work on, but who makes promises these days? Don't do it.
I sure don't. Thank you.
Don't hold me to anything.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And
Thank you so much.
All the new Poets Laureate, thank you for your time and for your wonderful work. Thank you, Lucy Hanley at the library, for our platform, for sharing these wonderful folks. And don't forget to join us June 5th for the spoken word episode of Poems from Connecticut's Four Corners. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Barb.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
Barb.
you.
Thank you,
Wonderful.
poets. Thank you, poets.
That's
A great night.
right. Yes, thank you.
All right.